Yo, what is up, gamers? My name is Snitch. Today I'm bringing you another patch review. We got a new Wild Rift patch coming, 2.2b. Finally, we're getting some hits on Evelynn. Finally, we're getting some hits on Katarina. We've all been waiting. We've all been wondering. And Riot Games have delivered. So today, we're going to be taking a look at these changes. I'm going to be breaking them down and giving you the rundown of what you can expect coming up in the next patch. How will this change the meta? What will be picked? What should you made in mid lane? Is Katarina dead? You know, we're going to answer all these questions. So, let's get right into it. Wild Rift patch notes 2.2b. Rengar and Kha'Zix join Wild Rift later this patch. And keep the rivalry going with the God Kings, Darius and Garen. Lastly, check out the balance changes aimed at underperforming dual lane carriers. We're going to patch 2.2b. I think it's a really interesting thing that they've gone for this patch, where they're actually buffing a lot of the weaker ADCs. I think it's, generally the vibe you want to get. I think Ezreal and Kai'Sa are outperforming the other ADCs right now. So it's kind of, cool to see them take the path of trying to make everybody else a little bit better rather than just straight away hitting the strong champions. But either way, depends how much they buff the weaker ones, I suppose. But it might be cooler, I like seeing them take this angle of like, let's buff some weaker champions rather than let's just nerf the good ones and have everybody be weak, It's a bit cooler to have them see and try and raise the level overall. Right, so new champions. We got Rengar and Kha'Zix coming this patch. If you guys are not familiar with them from PC, they are both traditionally junglers. Kha'Zix did have a big stint in the mid lane in his initial release, so there is definitely a chance that that kind of playstyle could be repeated. But overall, I think we could probably just assume they'll both be played in the jungle. Rengar is just as annoying as Evelynn, but he's physical, so you guys can get ready to enjoy that one. Goes invisible all the time, jumps at you from fog of war, one-shots your ass. Kha'Zix also goes invisible. In fact, honestly, they're both pretty annoying. I think both these champions are very dangerous. They kind of have a similar issue, especially Rengar, where there's no control wards in the game. It's very hard to get information on them. So I could definitely see them both being pretty overwhelming if they are balanced inaccurately. But hopefully, Riot will be able to take care of them properly, and we will get some funky new fun assassins in the game. But I would be lying if I said I wasn't a little bit nervous. They'll both be too strong, and they will blast us for a patch. Or 3, given the Katarina track record. But hopefully they come out in a balanced state. We won't have to worry too much. I'll even take them underpowered. I'll take it. If they're gonna be too weak and they do no damage, I'll understand. I'll deal with it as a resident mid lane player who plays champions with no escapes. Anyway, we got new skins coming this patch. Forecast Janna, Program Nami, God King Darius and Garen, Death Blossom Kha'Zix, and Night Hunter Rengar. Some of these are pretty cool. I'm actually a pretty big fan of Program Nami. I think this one's really cool. Another Janna skin already. I feel like Janna's gonna be like the Annie of this game so far. I think she's got like 7 skins now, actually. 6 skins? She had the sword one. She got lots of skins. There's a lot of skins going on there. But Forecast Janna is an absolute staple of PC. That was one of the first legendaries, I think, way back when. So pretty cool addition, I guess, especially if they add all the voice lines and stuff. I think it's definitely a pretty neat skin. New accessories coming. We already have these ones. I already have this accessory. This is the wrong picture. But okay. We won't talk about it. This is meant to be a different picture. We got new icons coming, new emotes, new spawn tags. I don't know what a spawn tag is. That's interesting. New icon borders and new baubles. Release of Kha'Zix scene wins the event. Release of Rengar scene wins this event. This is kind of cool. So they got this this coming. The Master of the Hunt event. There's not actually much information about it, but it looks like it's going to be like a classic. I'm pretty sure this happened on PC a couple times where there's going to be like 2 sides and then both sides are going to be competing to win the event. So I guess you'll either align yourself with Kha'Zix or you'll align yourself with Rengar. And then you'll be like collecting points by like doing missions or playing games or something, and then whichever team gets the most points will get a bigger reward. I think that's a pretty cool idea. So it's gonna begin on May 6th, but I'm imagining that's the kind of vibe. I don't know if it'd be specifically just Kha'Zix and Rengar players. That might be not as fun if it's just for those champions, but it looks like you'll align yourself with the team, and then yeah, 2 teams competing. So that's a pretty cool idea. Sounds like fun. We also got Nemesis Duel coming. I don't know if you guys managed to catch the leak yesterday, the Turkish patch notes, but for some reason they referred to this as the bum duel. So it said the first bum duel in Wild Rift is the hunt is on. And I don't know how that happened. That's one of those classic, you put it into Google, you translate it to 3 languages, and you translate it back, and that's what you get. But it's pretty funny to read. But now we can actually read about the Nemesis Duel. It's a permanent part of the game that will continue even once the event ends. A Nemesis Duel event can trigger when the respective champions meet at the following conditions. Both are at about level 13, neither have dealt damage. Dealt or taken champion damage within 5 seconds. Both are alive and both are at least 16 units apart. This is a classic for PC as well. Rengar and Kha'Zix in the lore are like big rivals. So there's this thing, I don't think it's actually in the game anymore, but there used to be a thing where Rengar had a big trophy system and he would like get extra trophies if he managed to kill Kha'Zix after level 16 or something in a 1v1. And then the same thing happened for Kha'Zix. He gets an evolution point every time he skills up his ultimate, but he got an extra 4th evolution point, even though it only normally got 3 if he killed Rengar after level 16. So it's kind of like this vibe of like, yeah, they're the big rivals and the lore affects the in-game thing. I don't think this will actually be too relevant after the first few weeks of their release, but you know, we'll see what happens. I think, honestly, traditionally, Rengar actually kind of counters Kha'Zix because I think he can reveal people while they're invisible with his ultimate. So it's very hard for Kha'Zix to outplay his one-shot. So I think actually the 1v1 is a little bit Rengar favored. But I don't know. Maybe I don't know enough about that matchup to be sure about how these Nemesis duels will go. But it does specify that this is the first Nemesis duel in Wild Rift. So this could be an idea that if it goes well, they might expand on it, which is a pretty cool idea, I guess. I mean, I don't know how many other examples there are of rivalry 1v1s. You know, maybe we could have the Nemesis duel between Garen and Darren. You know, Darren, the Might of Noxus. But I don't know how many applications this will have, but it seems like it's a system they do want to expand on. So maybe we'll have more lore-related events in the future. Maybe like the Shadow Isles, Lucian Thresh, Senna Thresh, these kind of champions. Viego, if he ever comes, has a lot of duels with people, I suppose. Kindred and the concept of death itself. Lots of big ones here. So maybe we could see some more Nemesis duels in the future. It seems like it's a system they want to keep going with. Champion changes. Darius able to beat down his opponents with his raw stats, giving a bit less health to play with in lane. I really like this change. Darius is a champion I find pretty annoying. The rare times I feel Baron lane, I don't put something like Camille into it, and the matchup is just really boring because it's really binary. It basically just comes down to like most champions playing against Darius is like, I'm gonna poke down Darius and then I'm gonna all in him when he's like 40%. And maybe I have enough damage to kill him, but if you don't kill him before he gets 5 autos, you're probably just dead. And I feel like most matchups come down to that kind of playstyle against him. So I think it's nice that they're hitting his base health because it makes that margin of error a little bit wider for his lane opponent. Basically, like you have more of an opportunity to get those timings without committing as much resources to getting him low in the first place. So basically just limit the amount of times he can get that kind of like crazy 1v1 outplay, and it would just like weaken him a little bit. I think hitting the base health is a really good move. Draven! Now that you all seem to have mastered Draven's axe catching shenanigans. He's strutting into a more unhealthy spot. With 20 on his damage, we can still encourage a heavy AD playstyle, but his opponent should have more space to fight against him where Snowball's out of control. I'm assuming this is more of a low elo change, balancing change. I don't really see Draven much in high elo at all. Maybe occasionally, like once or twice a day, but I've definitely never felt like he really is out of control. I think the smaller map actually hurts him quite a lot because it's a lot harder for him to position correctly and catch his axes without kind of getting caught. And I think he had to put a lot of time into the champion even just to be good at it in general. So I'm assuming this is more of a low elo change where he has a high win rate and low elo or something. Overall, not too much of a concern for higher elo games, I think. Evelynn! Evelynn's ultimate is up too frequently, allowing her to both escape sticky situations and execute people without enough downtime. Nothing gets cooldowns to decrease windows for opponents to make plays against her, especially in the early mid game. I don't mind this change philosophy, to be honest. 100 seconds to 120. This actually ramps up pretty fast. I don't know if you guys remember when Lulu's ultimate got changed, but it actually felt quite substantial. Even though she's a character that builds a lot of CDR traditionally, when they increased her ult time by like 20 seconds, it was actually impacting the game by quite a bit. At least from my perspective, feel like these kind of changes, they don't seem like much, but they actually do have an impact. I think especially in the early game, Eve is very reliant on her ultimate, and especially for first dragon, she needs it quite a lot to set up a steal very often. It's a big part of her playstyle. Is like, it's hard for her to directly contest the dragon, but she's really good at coming in afterwards and stealing it. I'm sure we've all faced, you know, the last caress plus smite combo, just yoinks the Inferno Dragon and she also gets over the wall at the same time. But now, if she wants to use her ultimate for an early fight, she also has a longer window where she doesn't have it coming up to that dragon. So she has to be a little bit more careful about, you know, choosing to use her ultimate to make a play or saving it for that dragon fight. And I think forcing her to make those decisions is a bit nice. I don't think this will be enough. I think she'll still be pretty meta, but overall this will bring it down just a little bit. Galio! We went a bit too hard on Galio, discovered a bug that may have skewed our assessment of his power. We're buffing back some things to support Galio's tankiness, but also reverting some changes we felt had higher value in making him more fun. So they fixed a bug on Winds of War here, where essentially it was doing his initial damage twice. I don't really know what this means. They're pretty vague about it. To me, I think it's probably that his traveling wind and the part where the circle connects are probably doing double damage. I've definitely had times where I've used his first ability and it's done a bunch of damage, just kind of out of nowhere. But I don't feel like it's super consistent. So it's hard to get a feel on how often this happens, where I'm not sure about how big a change this is. I mean, I've definitely had moments where I'm like, wow, my ability does so much damage there, even though I didn't think it would. And I just kind of assumed it was like just really high ratios. But I guess it could have been a bug. So, I mean, it depends. If this is happening like 9 out of 10 casts, of course, he's going to be way weaker. But to me, I feel like it's happening much rarer than that. You know, just how I feel about it. But maybe I'm just, you know, not even noticing it myself, but it's actually just an insane amount of, you know, the time it's proccing this bug, and he's gonna be a lot weaker. They reverted the passive cooldown nerf, and they could give him a little bit of health per level, make him a little bit more tanky. But I mean, for this patch, I think Galio has been totally fine. So as long as he isn't super reliant on this bug, and it's not where a lot of his damage is coming from, and I just haven't noticed, I think he'll still be fine. And I don't think they needed to necessarily make these changes, but I guess his win rate down a bit. So, you know, I'll take it, whatever. Katarina's a bit strong, especially at higher levels of play. Really? We're taking some power out of the parts of her kit that skilled players able to more consistently take advantage of. Slight base damage nerf to Veracity and a range nerf on Shunpo. I think this is very light-handed, but hopefully it'll make some level of difference. Katarina has been super obnoxious at higher levels of play. I'm sure it'll be a great meme where every time we get pentakilled by Cat, my chat will write -10 just to remind me of this great nerf. But I don't know. I'll take anything at this point. I think the champ is just way too easy to snowball on. Like, it's so easy to be behind in the game, and it's still one-shot entire teams. I would like to see a much bigger damage nerf, to be honest. Even just a rebalancing of her damage in general. I've said it a few times on the stream now that I think Katarina's problem is that her overall damage rotation is pretty much doing as much damage, if not more damage, than other meta mid lane choices, but she has a reset baked into her kit. If you're doing 100% of the damage of everybody else, like let's say 100% is the damage, you know, that you're doing, right? And everyone else is doing 100, and then you reset, you're doing 200 immediately, right? So you're already doubling the damage that every other champion is doing just off one kill. I think Katarina should be balanced more around doing something like 60 to 70% of every other meta pick's damage, and then when she doubles, she's doing like 120 to 140%, you know, of like the average character damage. And then when she gets 2 resets, that's when she really starts taking over a fight. I think that fits more like her identity and the way I'd like to see it balanced, because I think right now the biggest problem is just that she's doing as much damage as everybody else, but she has a full reset mechanic, which just makes her do astronomical amounts of damage in one fight. So I would definitely like to see her damage get toned down and maybe focus more on the reset style, as opposed to her just being generally a good character that just also has a reset mechanic. Leona should be shining and landing against range supports in the duo lane, but she's getting overshadowed. These changes are intended to make her better at fighting those fights and winning against squishies. Base stats, base health regen 7.5 to 9. Sunlight damage buffed a little bit in the early game, a little bit in the late game, and Zenith Blade range. So I think the Zenith Blade range is a really big change. I think the base health regen is a good change. I don't think this is super significant, but I guess if you're proccing it, you know, 10 times in lane, you're doing 80 more damage, so it's pretty noticeable. Yeah, overall I think it's a good change. I think Leona's really close. I think this is a really good character to buff right now, because the Enchanter meta is very, very big, and I think Leona is traditionally a pretty good answer to Enchanters, but the character itself has been quite weak. I do think it's a good champion to kind of make a bit stronger right now as like a meta response. I think the Zenith Blade buff is like the biggest part that will be impactful. Yeah, I do think the champion's very close to being good, and I think this will help her a lot. And we may start seeing some of Leona in high-level games and comps, so that'd be cool. Teemo, you didn't see anything. Guerrilla Warfare bug fix. So basically it just read wrong on the tooltip. Oh, thank Teemo's finally meta, guys. We've made it. The change that he deserved. Whew, close school, close school. Ziggs' early game is too explosive. Hard agree. This is kind of like the Orianna CD change that she got, where they increased the early game cooldown, bouncing bomb like command attack, and just left the late game the same. This is just hitting his early lane phase. It is very obnoxious right now. I think this would be a nice change to Ziggs to definitely make it a little bit easier to play around in the early game, but overall, I think it should be fine. I don't think it changed too much. Didn't change his scaling, didn't really change his like mid-game onwards at all. I mean, they literally didn't change it. So I think the champion will still be fine. It's just a little bit of a nerf to his early game presence, making his lane phase a little bit more dealable with as the adversary, especially if it's something that's melee. Not too big a change. It would just make it a bit more easy to navigate in the early game. Duo carry changes. The duo lane meta is close to being very healthy. We're taking this opportunity to buff the slightly underperforming duo carry champs to help them catch up. I think it's a really good mindset to have. Taking weaker champions, making them stronger, as opposed to just hitting all the strong champions. Like I said, Kai'Sa and Ezreal have been really strong in this patch. Pretty much the standout 2 ADCs. So I think it's nice to see everybody else getting kind of helped up a little bit, as opposed to just seeing those two get nerfed and, you know, all these other champions that have been quite weak for a while, not really getting any help. So Ashe getting a little volley buff. Cooldown going down 1 second every rank, especially in max rank. This is a lot better. I think a lot of people have been maxing Ashe's first skill for a while, but I think this would definitely push volley to be more of a solid option. I think it should be the way where volley's maxed, but I think people are just maxing the first skill for some reason. I don't know. I'm not really much of an Ashe player. Just what I saw on streams a few times, but you know, volley max will be good, a lot better. I remember there was one time where Ashe's volley on PC, I think the late game cooldown got nerfed by like 1 second, and it brought about this insane Ashe meta out of nowhere because everybody started sacking CDR builds and just having volley all the time. I mean, I could just imagine a world where you do build some sort of CDR Ashe, you go like, you know, maybe Muramana, that kind of build, maybe even Ionian boots, and you know, you've already got like, you know, 3-second cooldown on volley, and it gets really obnoxious spamming volley all the time. So I think this could definitely pave the way for like an interesting Ashe build that could work, but we'll just see how it goes. You know, I think this kind of change is interesting, definitely could push the champion to be a lot more relevant. I think when Ashe is good, it's always pretty good for the meta, because it kind of shifts ADC into having this like utility option and not just being all about being like glass cannon, full damage farming early game, but like instead you become like a initiating kind of like utility focused champion, which is a pretty interesting alternative playstyle to have the option to draft into in certain games. So I do think it's good when Ashe is strong. Tristana! We're amping up Tristana's burst damage. We can find better opportunities to go for the big plays. Finally, they're buffing Tristana for the first time. I haven't seen any Tristana changes in any recent patches. So it's great to see Tristana finally getting a buff, because maybe she'll now be good, is what I said 4 patches ago. And now we're on the 4th patch in a row where Tristana's getting buffed. But maybe this time she'll actually be good. So a little bit of an active base damage buff to explosive charge. I don't know how this works for the overall scaling, but I assume like 5 to 20 damage is actually more substantial on a maximum explosive charge. I don't actually know the exact math myself and how much you get from each additional auto on the bomb. But I think overall this is probably a pretty big base damage increase, and especially the ultimate getting 50 in every rank. I think actually this is giving her a lot more damage. Could finally be the window where Tristana would be good. Definitely interested in trying it in the mid lane again. I still have the issue with her where it's very hard to proc your own explosive charge in the early game, which makes her trading very difficult. Maybe there's somewhere around that. I wanted to try like dagger start or something to see if the additional attack speed lets you actually trade more aggressively in the early game. But maybe this is finally where Tristana will start to shine. I think the champion is pretty close, to be honest. I've seen some good Tristanas playing on 2.2a, so I don't think she's too far off from being a good champ. Occasional respectable pick. But I think that the thing with Tristana is she's normally either really good or she's never good. So we'll either start seeing her a lot or we'll continue to see her barely at all. We'll just see how it goes, I guess. Varus can use a bit of a nudge to make him stronger at higher skill levels. We're amping up his execute, so the players who can capitalize on his blighted quiver arrow combo better rewarded. This is kind of a scary buff to me. I don't know if you guys have seen. I've already been playing a bit of Varus. Doom was a big fan of Varus as well already. I think this like Muramana lethality poke Varus is already actually a very strong build, and I think this buff to blighted quiver, where it's 27% execute missing health damage, is actually pretty insane. It's gonna be pretty wild to see this if this buff makes a big impact to Varus, because I think he's already pretty close. A little bit of base mana, good synergy with the Muramana style as well. You're getting a little bit more base damage. I think this champion could be very close to being top tier on this patch. Like, this is a pretty significant buffs, because I already think he's really good, and these changes are just kind of like nuts for like that second, third arrow you get off. So we'll see how how this shakes on the meta, because I definitely could see Varus stepping into being one of the better ADCs on this patch. If not, maybe, you know, one of the best. Vayne's ultimate, while strong overall, is pretty weak in the early game, making Fun Arrow a reasonable option to help her in lane duels. I think Vayne's like not too bad right now. She's got some decent matchups. I think the biggest problem is just that the meta doesn't really suit her. Supports are enchanters right now, and she hates to play against like multiple range comps. She's more of like a counter pick to like a big tanky comp. So if something like Leona does start to prop up more in the meta again, I think Vayne could be a good option into something like that. I think the big issue is like, while these are nice changes, they don't really help her with her kind of like enchanter matchups. I don't think the champion's too bad, like I said. I just think she doesn't really fit in the meta right now. So that's kind of her biggest issue. Zyyah's cooldowns feel quite long in Wild Rift due to the lack of AD plus ability haste options. Additionally, her Blade Caller has room to be more rewarding players who can trap her opponents. Deadly Plumage mana cost down, cooldown down. This is really nice actually. Steroid is really strong, so lowering the cooldown will make her feel a bit smoother to play. And they're increasing the root duration of Blade Caller. I feel like I remember this being a thing on PC as well that made Zyyah a lot stronger, was when they increased the root duration. They may have even brought it back to 1 second, I don't remember. But I think this change happened a while ago, and Zyyah meta became a lot more relevant. The problem is, I think she has similar issues as Vayne, where she's pretty bad into long range compositions, and a lot of the supports are enchanters right now. There's Ziggs in the mid lane, Ezreal's really popular. Like, all these champions kind of punish Zyyah a lot, because she's much more of like a peel back kind of AD carry, where she wants to get dove and then outplay the dive. But maybe when Kha'Zix and Rengar are out, she might be a bit more of a meta pick. Those champions are very dive heavy, and they are like these assassins, and that's kind of more of her window to interact with the game. So while these changes are nice, I don't know if they'll actually affect how much she's getting picked. She's already getting played a reasonable amount. It's just the meta's kind of shifting away from her usefulness, making her less of a popular pick. Item changes. Ardent Sensor. Enchanter supports are overperforming, like I keep mentioning. So we're looking to normalize the cost of their items to be in the same area as the tankier counterparts. So we've got the Ardent Sensor changes here where the gold cost is going up. This is the combined cost. I don't know what the harmonic echo changes are actually meant to be. My teammate Doom actually pointed out that these are the changes that were made to Sunfire Aegis in the last patch. I was thinking these didn't really make sense when I read them the first last time. But yeah, I actually don't know what the harmonic echo changes are meant to be. I'm assuming it's a gold cost change. Probably 200 gold more, like they're doing with Ardent Sensor here, because that would make sense with the earlier point they made here. But yeah, for some reason it's listing the Sunfire Aegis changes from last patch. I don't know how this happened. Yeah, here we go. We have Dragos saying, we, and by we I mean Excoundrel, and by Excoundrel he means me, because I told Excoundrel this. Actually, I think I told him this morning after this tweet was made. So actually, I think Excoundrel found it out. But I also found it out, and I messaged Excoundrel about it, and he didn't respond to me yet. So I'm gonna look stupid when he replies and says that he already knows. The change that is going up to 2,900 gold. So yeah, it looks like it's a plus 200 gold change overall. Just making enchanter supports a little bit similar to tank supports in terms of their power spikes and when they'll get their items online. Rune changes, Conqueror. Oftentimes we're seeing poke champions with a stack Conqueror before even entering a fight. It's a bit too forgiving. We want Conqueror more of a long-term commitment, not a flight of fancy. Stack duration going down. I think this is a pretty good change. I definitely feel like Ziggs Orianna is part of why they like Conqueror so much. Is it's so easy to stack by poking before a fight, and then you just have it the whole fight. And a 5-stack Conqueror is actually very significant. So I think it's a good change to kind of like, yeah, shift away from that idea of like, you could literally thrown a Ziggs Q or like a Ziggs bomb, waited the entire cooldown, and then throw in another one and still have your initial Conqueror stack, and it's kind of crazy. But now that timing window is getting a little bit tighter. Yeah, even post nerf, if they didn't lower the stack duration, you could do that with rank 1 Ziggs bomb. That'd be completely crazy. Spell changes, barrier. Barrier's frequent uptime often meant it was always the right choice no matter what lane opponent you were facing. Well, we like barrier to be more strategic counter than the guaranteed pick. 30 seconds on barrier cooldown. Now, I do think this is a good change. Barrier has been really dominant in the meta, mainly because the cooldown is so low. Also has really good synergy with Ionian Boots to make it even lower. A lot of champions are taking this, especially in mid lane, especially in Baron lane, especially as ADC. Basically, just all champions are taking this. I'm not sure if this nerf will actually change that. I do think it's a good nerf, giving more windows to play against barrier, but I think there's a big problem where a lot of champions just don't want to take ignite. Heal is just worse than barrier for like solo lanes. A lot of champions don't want to take ghost. There's just not many other choices, you know? We don't have teleport as a summoner spell. It's just, you're kind of picking barrier or ignite, maybe exhaust, but maybe exhaust to be taken over barrier a few more times than normal. But I just don't really see this phasing barrier out of the meta. But what it will do is it will give people who take barrier more opportunities to be punished. They won't have barrier as often. I still think it'd be picked a pretty similar amount unless it really feels that much worse. But overall, I don't think this will actually change the barrier meta. It will just give a bit more counterplay to it, which is still a good thing. Don't get me wrong, it's still a good change. It will definitely make punishing people who take barrier a little bit easier, but I don't think this will like reverse it back to like everyone going ignite, especially after they just nerfed ignite in the previous patch as well and lowered the range. It made it much harder to use for mages and other long range champions. I don't expect barrier pick meta to go away. It's just, yeah, there'll be more windows where you can actually punish those champions. Dragons! Inferno and Cloud Dragon are running a little hotter and windier than Mountain and Ocean. We're likely nerfing them to close the gap. These adjustments make them still worth taking, less game deciding. Inferno Dragon damage bonus down. Elder Inferno Dragon damage bonus down, move speed down for Cloud Dragon, and Elder Cloud Dragon move speed down. I think these are good changes. I think they're right. These dragons feel much better than the other ones. I definitely prefer a meta where you're not forced to take Dragon or you lose the game. So even taking 2% off Inferno Dragon will probably make it a lot better to play against. Same with lowering the move speed of Cloud Dragon. Just try to make these dragons less game deciding, especially the Infernal or the Elders. Sorry, if you get Elder Infernal in a game and you take it, the game just feels completely unlosable. If you have the Elder Infernal, you're just doing so much more damage. It's actually crazy. Hopefully these changes will help, you know, send the meta in a way where, yeah, you don't have to, much like if you have a mountain or ocean, you don't have to just send everybody to do it and just fight the dragon in 4 minutes and, you know, we have to win the dragon or the game's over. Just lets people make, you know, more interesting macro decisions like giving up the dragon or not contesting it straight away, you know, giving people more options rather than having these dragons that feel like they decide the game straight away. And then we have the free-to-play champion rotation. Is anybody cool you can try? Rammus. Yeah, Rammus, May 6th to May 12th. You can roll around as an armadillo. I'm sure you've always wanted to do that. So there we go. That's Wild Rift Patch Notes 2.2b. If you guys enjoyed this review, this patch will be live on the 28th of April in Europe. Coming out tomorrow. I'll be excited to try out the patch. You guys can, of course, catch me looking and trying it on my Twitch stream at twitch.tv/snitch, live every day with Wild Rift content. Hope you guys enjoyed this patch review. Make sure you leave a like, maybe comment on your favorite change. That would be pretty funky if you guys would do that for me. You can also subscribe to my YouTube for more additional Wild Rift content coming out soon. And yeah, thank you guys again for hanging out, checking out this video, and I'll catch you guys again on the next patch review.